Hello and welcome to episode 5 of No Holds Barred. That's Sal
Hiya.
and I'm Don. Together we'll take a weekly look at all things political, social and anything else we can think of, really. No Holds Barred. As always, we're going to be chatting about some of the week's news, PMQs, and this week in particular we've got lots of questions from our lovely followers and contributors over on Twitter/X. So we're going to try and address a couple of those as we go along and towards the end. So on that vein, it would be great if you wanted to contribute. You're more than welcome to send us anything you like, within reason, please. Make it legal. Send us an email, send us a DM on X, send us a WhatsApp, send us a postcard if you like.
Tell us what you're angry about. Or if you found something that was wonderful, send us that too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, positive things gratefully received as well, definitely, because we need them. We try and keep it positive, at least at parts of the podcast.
You need antidote, don't you?
Yeah, last week's Squirrel Whisperer clip was excellent. I loved that. So yeah, that was great. So that being said, I think we should get on with the show. And yeah, crack on. So,
Cool.
how shall we start this week?
Shall I rattle through my performative minister's questions notes?
Yes, let's have a
I
look
love making every week.
at PMQ's notes.
One thing that caused a little concern for me because it's sort of not too far away from me. Apparently, Blackpool has got such bad landfill problems; it's causing people to be ill with the toxic smells and such like.
All right.
Blackpool. I mean, we've got rivers full of shit. I don't know why I'd be surprised, but you've still got this mental. Well, I've still got this mentality of being in a functional, developed country.
Yeah.
Silly me, my naivety. That was brought up at some point. Now you know how I feel about Kemi Badenoch.
I do.
I am not a fan at all in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'd see her in a prison cell. However, I was affronted on her behalf by the way Starmer attacked her. She literally stood up and was incredibly conciliatory towards him and the arson attack on his house a couple of days ago. And he literally just stood up and railed her out of nowhere.
He did.
It was just a madness. I'm not expecting you to turn around and go, "Oh, well, you were so sympathetic towards me. Thank you for your empathy." It was just insane.
Do you think
I still can't fathom why he thought that was an appropriate response to what she said.
No, that's what I think. It was really disjointed, wasn't it? Do you think he was expecting something more sort of strong from her to start with, and he just?
I don't care what he was expecting. If he's so superior, he can put himself forward as leader of this country. He should be able to think rationally and on his feet.
True.
He shouldn't have to have a script.
Which
negates the purpose.
Definitely not standing up for him. He was awful this week.
I'm going, no, you're not. I'm just,
Yeah.
It razzes me off.
Yeah. No, it's fair.
So, yeah, where am I going? She was wanging on. She then started wanging on about Santander and Sainsbury's and stuff, cutting staff. I meant to go and check last year's profits for Sainsbury's and Santander, who can't afford to pay the people because of the NI raise, but I forgot.
In the billion.
There'll be people working at Sainsbury's claiming universal credit.
Yeah, definitely.
And it never affects the profit margins, does it? Ever.
Okay.
Are you drunk? That's a bit early, Dom.
Excuse me a minute. My camera's gone wonky. There we go. I'm sorry. Oh, what's happening?
If it doesn't work, give it a shake and try again.
Yeah, we found that worked last week, didn't we?
Top IT knowledge for you.
Yeah. Right. Sorry about that. Carry on.
That's okay.
Thanks, Bruce.
Keir Starmer mentioned Jaguar Land Rover so many times. I was wondering if they were sponsoring that particular PMQs. I think you might have a problem.
It's a cursed episode. What's going on? Stupid thing. Why is it not working? Okay. Come on. You can do it.
One of them days, isn't it?
It is. It's cursed day. This has worked every week so far. Anyway, right. Yeah, sorry. Jaguar Land Rover. Yeah.
Yeah, fresh off his being at their plant last week where everyone looked like they were part of some sort of UK Squid Game, he was just mentioned Jaguar Land Rover a lot. So yeah, Kia also mentioned Jaguar Land Rover enough times that I was wondering if they were sponsoring that particular episode of Prime Minister's Queries.
Yeah.
But it was obviously just off the back of his jobs deal last week, whatever
Yeah.
that was about. News just in,
Hmm.
whether it's good or not is dependent on your take. Lisa Nandy, rather, is still alive. She was actually
Is
humanly
it?
there in the Commons. No one's seen her for such a long time,
Yeah, I thought
but
she'd
she's still alive.
vaporised somewhere because she doesn't seem
Don't
to
know
be
what she's
doing.
doing.
No, exactly. The DCMS doesn't really seem to be a. I think aren't they abandoning it anyway? Aren't they also mothballing the whole department, as far as I'm aware?
I'd like to know what they're going to do instead, because you can't. Part of the problem we've got overall at the minute is the fact that we're not recognizing the consequences of the technological industrial revolution. And
Indeed.
it's a big part of a lot of our problems.
Yes, I've got a bit to say
So,
on that later. So yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, but aside from Lisa Nandy, Ed Davey stood up and
Mm.
raised the subjects of Gaza.
Hmm.
He said they were in a humanitarian crisis where lots of people were dying due to malnutrition and starvation, let alone guns, bombs, and bullets.
Yeah,
He asked Starmer to recognise Palestine and did not once mention the word genocide.
it's a bad word, isn't it? They're not allowed to say it for some reason.
But that's the whole problem. You
I
can't
know.
police speech in a land of free speech.
No, exactly.
And you should be able to say words that accurately fit the description of what's going on, because
Yeah.
otherwise that's extremely toxic and manipulative behaviour.
Did you see the um, celebratory gala thing they had at the Israeli embassy in the week as well, with Jimmy Carr hosting it and Maria?
Oh God, I didn't. Did he do that?
Yeah, Maria Eagle was there speaking.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Jimmy Carr hosted an Israeli do.
Hmm. With with everyone's favorite Israeli ambassador, City Hopper.
She should be. They should.
She's horrible. She's so bloodthirsty.
They're
Every time I see,
psychopaths. They're
yeah,
absolute fucking psychopaths.
yeah, she's a really dangerous woman.
Speaking of psychopaths, Starmer then turned around and said that the situation was intolerable now, apparently. He's finding it intolerable, bless his cotton socks.
Mm,
He's finding it intolerable. Says he's working on a ceasefire, just further hyperbolic shit. Nothing
yeah,
of any substance. We've still got RAF Aquatiri
yeah,
looking after the spy planes, sending them
yeah,
over to
yeah.
Palestine to see what's going on so the IDF can pick people out. We're still sending bits of munitions over there for
Oh
all their
yeah.
drones and
Ooh.
planes and stuff. We are complicit as fuck
Oh yeah, 100%.
with the world lawless, and it's terrifying. And
Yeah.
that was about the size of PMQs. Or my train pulled in. I can't remember which happened first.
Are you listening on the train, me?
Yeah, I lose the signal when it starts going through the big
Yeah,
tunnels.
yeah,
Um, so that was fun.
yeah. It was a strange one, and we got a question from one of
Oh,
our
sorry,
listeners.
I stand corrected.
Go on.
Of course, I missed a bit off. His well, actually, when you consider what he said to Kemi Badenoch, his attack on Liz Savile Roberts might be part of a theme, because
That's
the
what I was
way
going to
he
ask you about.
spoke
Yeah.
to her, he wouldn't necessarily have liked what she was saying, but she was saying factually accurate things
Hmm.
in a very civil way. Now, if he'd have taken it on the chin and said, you know what, I can see where you're coming from, but this is my position,
Hmm.
that would have garnered some respect, because that's how people work.
Yeah.
What he did was just absolutely, well, he thinks he just insulted her and buried her. What he actually did was reveal exactly who he is and what he's about,
Mm.
for my money.
Yeah.
A rational, stable person doesn't attack like that. A professional person doesn't attack like that. They do the job they're
Hmm.
supposed to fucking do.
Well, this is it. Is this a mask slipping moment for
Oh,
Starmer?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And at the worst possible time for him as well. They're not, they're just so full of egotistical confidence. And why wouldn't you be, I guess, in that position? But unfortunately, the consequences are cruelty on other people.
Yeah, it seems to be that way at the moment, doesn't it? It's really, it's hard to sort of kind of marry up how he is behaving at the moment with how he was behaving like a year, 2 years ago when he was put out his intentions and his promises of what he would become as a leader, and before he became the leader, and then as a when he was campaigning to become prime minister, and he's changed.
Do you know what I heard this week
Go on.
over his immigration rhetoric?
Mm.
I heard Widdecombe
Oh yeah.
say Starmer has gone too far.
Oh god,
That's where we are now. Anne Widdecombe thinks Keir Starmer has gone too far on immigration.
that's insane. You can't. Oh my god, you don't even know what to say to that. It's just mad. Is this so? This is the question that we got asked as well. Another thing is what it kind of ties in a little bit. There's two questions actually we got on Twitter about this the other today.
Mm.
One from the handle is fuck it, and she asked me Starmer's general dealing with women in light of his comments at PMQs to female Welsh minister, is it
Mm.
grandstanding or misogyny?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to take away from your point, but it kind
No.
of feeds into it, and I don't really know what it means yet. But what was more interesting, I think, than Starmer's mask slipping was the reaction of the people behind him. Rachel Robotic Reeves burst out laughing like she was
Yeah.
listening to a Jimmy Carr gig.
Yeah. I saw
Angela Rayner smirked and remained stony faced,
that. Hmm.
which I think is an appropriate response because we don't know why she was smirking, and I don't necessarily think she was smirking at him putting Liz Savile Roberts down.
Mm.
Could have been, but I don't necessarily think it was because that. I mean, that was just if he made a really funny gaff and we were all like, "Oh, that's quite good for him." So
Yeah.
yeah, he's got a good writer in. It wasn't one of them, was it? It was just
No.
mean, nasty, dismissive, aggressive, and uncalled for.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He could have given a million responses to that, even if he didn't want to fess up and go, I'm sorry you say it like that, or
Mm.
a
Yeah.
non-apology. But to go, he literally went for her throat,
Yeah. He
if
did.
relative to the circumstance.
Yeah. It was the real aggression is the right word. It was an angry knee-jerk reaction, which I don't know if I've seen him do that before. I mean, he's been angry with Kemi Badenoch, as you said earlier, and it was a bad day for him for
That
sure.
was also back for nothing.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was.
I
It
mean,
was.
I don't know. I'm just playing with my
Mm.
head, but was it Tuesday when his house was set on fire?
I think that's when it came out. It may be Monday, but yeah, it was definitely this week.
Because it could be that, but I still don't find it excusable because you don't get to be like,
No.
you
Oh
still
no,
need to be accountable for your behaviour.
yeah, 100%, especially as your prime minister. It was
Yes.
definitely not excusable in any fashion how he behaved on Wednesday. I don't know. It's a strange one because we can all see him changing and things are happening for the worse for sure at the moment with Labour. But I never thought Keir Starmer was that guy. He was the misogynist guy that would attack women straight, like so quickly. And as you said, with that level of aggression, I've never seen that from him before, which was a weird mask slipping moment, if that
Well,
happened.
I don't know. I can absolutely believe he's capable of it. If you go
Yeah.
back to his history as was he the director of public
Yeah,
prosecution?
DPP, yeah.
If you go back and do a bit of reading on his MO, then he was all for sucking out of the job everything he could get. And I don't imagine you get to that position without having a little bit of manipulative slight, because
Yeah.
that's how it's dog eat dog at that point, isn't it? Of
Well,
career
yeah, the top
career
of any
progression.
game is top of any profession or anything. You have to be a bit of an arsehole, don't you, to get there? But
Well, you got to be single-minded and know you're going to get there. You don't,
yeah,
I don't think the people who are the best at what they do are all psychopaths by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that there's a higher prevalence of psychopaths in that demographic than
mm,
most other demographics
yeah,
relative to proportion.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's almost like they had this idea to sort of go after the right wing vote, and they're pressing this button for more right-wing votes, but this button isn't working anymore, and he's still pressing it, and he's getting angrier and angrier, and he's pressing it,
Yeah,
he's trying to get it to work. What do you mean Zionism isn't the way forward? Keep pressing it, keep pressing it. Ah! No, dickhead. Other way.
yeah, you've gone the wrong way. Yeah, I know. I mean, things will play out with him and the Labour Party over the next few months. I think be interesting once we get through the summer and go to party conference and see what happens then.
We're going to party conference, are we?
Well, no, I don't know if we are or not, but yeah, that might be quite fun. But just in general,
It's
when we
handy for
get,
me.
sorry,
It's handy for me.
yeah, not far for you, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about Starmer. I didn't like what I saw. I did not like it. He was an angry, petulant, ill-prepared politician. He wasn't a prime minister. He wasn't the leader of the Labour Party. He was just a stroppy dickhead, as far as I can tell. And I don't know why he's done it, but we'll find out. Things will happen. I don't know if he's stressed.
That's not just stroppy. Stroppy's being rude to your PA because you woke up at
Yeah.
wrong side of bed.
No, he's
That was something else.
Yeah, it was aggression. It was uncalled for aggression, definitely. Yeah, let's see what happens with him. There's a lot of rumours swirling, which I'm not going to add to because I don't think it's helpful with anything in politics of adding to rumours. But
That's okay, mate. I thought I could hear my cat. He announces himself from about 2 miles away as he approaches the house. But you'll know if Bruce approaches, trust me.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's lots of rumours about Starmer, but not just about his leadership more than anything else. Not anything weird, but we'll see.
We're back in Johnson Cummings territory again, aren't we?
Almost.
Except, I mean, I think Starmer's moral plate is very different to Johnson's.
Yeah.
I just think it's alternatively terrible.
Well, it seems like it at the moment.
I mean, the long and short of it is neither of them are doing the job for which they are employed, are they?
No.
You're supposed to be caretaking the country, not your tiny subset of wealthy friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting you say about trying to out Farage and get that right wing vote. It doesn't work. There's no need for it as well. That's the point.
Who looks at Nigel Farage and his history and thinks, do you know what?
Yeah.
Lost 8 times. He's the man I need to emulate, that fella. He was brilliant. The minute he got somebody with billions behind them and some contacts in Russia, he became amazing.
That's it, exactly.
But again, Don, and I've been saying this for years, and people think I'm nuts. I think think I'm less nuts these days, but it's all so performative. Why are we believing any of it is legitimate? Because I don't think that it is. And things like this just stack up to that conclusion.
Yeah, seems that way. Does seem that way. Yeah. I don't know.
It's like a sick and twisted Truman Show.
Yeah, it does feel like that. It does. We'll see how that plays out with Labour. I don't really know what else we can say at the moment. Yeah, I think that was it really about Starmer. I don't know. I haven't really got much else to add to him. I think we have to wait and see how things play out with him.
Well,
he's making mistakes, big mistakes.
Somebody was mentioning the other day that they thought Streeting was being groomed, and after what we discovered about him last week, that wouldn't surprise me in the least.
No.
Cut the head off one snake.
Yeah, exactly. The only other thing I had on PMQs was about Kemi Badenoch and her Beale's department store attack.
Nonsense.
And she kind of went in on it, and I just thought it made her seem a bit worse prepared than usual and a bit more of a gaffe than usual, because it was a business that shut down, went into administration in 2020. It had 23 shops then, and it shut down 22 of them in 5 years ago. And the last one to be shut down was a performative stunt when they put all the Rachel Reeves closing down sale stuff in the windows, just to suck in gullible right-wing media types to give him a bit of promotion, and it definitely worked.
You see that? I think it's part of the trend we've had in the last, God, I mean, 30 years maybe.
Mm.
As soon as we sort of Americanized everything and bought over these retail parks and took
Yeah.
footfall away from town and village centres. I know Liverpool, Christ, we used to have Lewis's, George Henry Lee's, Debenhams, BHS. There was a Littlewoods at one point, I think.
Yeah.
We used to have a lot of department stores,
Yeah.
and now we've got John Lewis because they bought out George Henry Lee's, and everyone else has gone into administration.
Yeah.
So it's clearly a market trend. Much as I love to blame the government for lots of things, I think that's the way modernity's taken it. I don't think you can
Yeah.
blame the economy for that necessarily. And
No.
we're back to, at what point does profiteering get affected with a business? Because it never seems to. It seems to be we can only earn all the money, or we have to earn none of the money, and
Yeah.
nothing else will alter. And I need to read my economics book because I don't understand why that is. It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've started listening to some podcasts.
It's like,
John
sorry,
Maynard Keynes. Sorry.
no, just because it's a little bit, it's not the same thing, but it's similar to the Birmingham bin men striking at the
Mm.
minute. They want to cut like these guys' pay by, is it £6,000 or £8,000 a
Something
year or
like that, yeah.
something? Yeah, the chief executive who's on six figures is taking no reduction in pay.
Of course
So
not. As always. Yeah.
up the workers.
Well, just before we started the record, I was listening to the radio, and as I always do, as we often say, and Tom Swarbrick, who was on LBC this afternoon, announced that he was going to have a millionaire on to discuss about whether it's a great country for millionaires anymore, or whether they should all leave the country.
Oh, where's my tiny violin? I do
Well,
actually have them. My
well,
friend printed me one. I don't know where it is.
it's just mad. Like, this is the framing of the media of like, oh my God, boo-hoo for the millionaires. Oh, that's just what you said about the bin companies and everything else. The people at the top of these companies never ever lose out on anything. You know, people
The
like,
funny thing is how you're only greedy if you're poor and you want more money. If you're loaded and you want more money, then that's not greedy. What
no,
is that?
yeah, exactly. That's being a successful entrepreneur, isn't it? If you want more money.
It's counterproductive to the human race.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Crazy. So I'll have a listen on catch up to that, because it'll be quite interesting to hear the views of another. Oh no, I won't. Millionaires. I've had enough of them. They're just everywhere. Ant Middleton, Charlie Mullins, Nigel Farage, Richard Tice. Richard Tice is everywhere all the time, constantly.
He won't bite though, will he?
No, he doesn't.
You've tried. I've tried.
I very much tried.
Shit's biting.
Oh yeah, she's
Like a
always
hungry guppy fish.
Yeah, she's always sticking up for her man and reform when I mention him. Even unsolicited now, she started coming into my replies, Isabel. So, but I'd come and chat to us, Isabel. I'd love you to come and have a chat about reform. That would be fun.
She wouldn't have the cojones.
I just happened to be looking at the register of members' interests, because someone asked me on Twitter about, I'm digressing a bit, but do MPs get paid money for their sort of TV appearances and things like that?
Yeah.
And depending what channels and what sort of stations they do. But as far as I can see, none of them declare it in their registers of interest.
I don't. Well, I mean,
Unless
unless you've got a writing contract.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they pay huge amounts. I think
No.
like a couple £100 an appearance type thing.
That's what I thought.
But it's all promotion in it, so it's like a sweetener.
Yes, exactly. One of the things I noticed, and it was picked up last year, but only really briefly, as far as I'm concerned. I could see, sorry, is Richard Tice declared some expenses to fly and make a speech to a group called Le Circle, who I'd never heard of before, and they said they paid for them. And there is a Daily Mirror article about it, but it's really, really brief. It's a secret society of right-wing leaders, and by secret society I mean people like
What?
of right-wing leaders, government leaders.
Leaders?
Yeah.
Breeders?
No. And it's had people like
All the famous ones.
Norman Schwarzkopf, Rory Stewart, Nadim Zahawi. This is recently, but it goes back to the 1950s, and it's like an anti-communist secret society. It's very, very, very tightly controlled. But Richard Tice flew out there in August last year to do a speech to this secret society of right-wing thinkers, policymakers, whatever you want to call them.
That would be a short meeting.
Yeah, I found that really interesting. They were really supported apartheid in South Africa when it was going on, this group, and they're apparently CIA funded. Alan Clark said he was in part of it when, and in his diaries, he said that it was funded by the CIA, the Circle.
But somebody said that's what BlackRock is.
Yeah, apparently.
Basically, it's a CIA op.
Yeah, and Bilderberg and various other things like that. Definitely.
Don't worry, they're only completely contracted to our government to get involved with data, so that's fine.
BlackRock and Palantir, they're the two really shady ones that we need to be thinking about.
Oh, did you see the was it the UK director of Palantir the other day on the telly on BBC? Oswald Mosley's grandson.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Nothing to see here.
Wearing a black shirt.
Yeah, closely tied to Musk, who is a grandson of Nazis.
Yeah.
We've got a fucking problem.
Yeah, big time. Big time. I'm writing a big thing about fascism at the moment and how the parallels from 100 years ago are
frightening.
Very, very scary. We should all be a bit worried about this because aside from the militarism of the kind of Mussolini fascists, almost everything is sort of falling into place with the things that are happening in America.
We need to get all the archdukes and like lock them up somewhere safely.
Yeah, definitely. Where well, most of the fascists, they all ended up in Brixton jail during the Second World War, like Mosley and all his compatriots. But yeah,
why can't we do that before it happens?
Well, yeah, that would be
Charge
nice.
barrage.
It just makes you think when people like Richard Tice are flying off to do, you know, secret speeches at secret societies in Germany. I think it was in Austria, you know, and yeah, it was mentioned briefly in the press, but not really. And it's quite a significant thing that.
Well, it matters what company you keep, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's he doing in with a secret society of weird right-wing policymakers, global policymakers?
Masturbating each other, probably.
Yeah, perhaps. How do we get on from Beals to fascism? That's funny.
Oh, I can connect to anything, Don.
Yeah. Beals, the group of department stores, ended up in secret societies and fascists. But yeah, fair enough. I think my last thing was on that because I just wanted to say that I got called a Labour shill again by a different GB News presenter this week. I'm collecting them. I'm making a little tick sheet of GB News. Alex Armstrong.
Oh, he's a yeah. I've got to remember people watching this.
He said to me, "Why are you so determined to shill for Labour, despite the fact that unemployment is up? But yes, continue to shill. You won't get a seat, Don." Lots of people think I'm going into politics. I'm not.
Why don't you get your own opinion and your own name? Is what I'd say, Baffin.
Yeah. Doubling up as the presenter of a game show.
Pound Shop Alexander Armstrong.
Yeah. But anyway, that was all I had left on PMQs. But yeah, I'm making a little tally chart of GB News presenters that go for me.
Well, yeah, what did I say? I said something on Twitter this week. I can't even remember what it was about. It might have been when I was fed up. And someone called me a Nazi.
Oh, really? Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Such a melting pot of mental health issues this country.
Yeah, I could segue really nicely into the other thing I wanted to talk to there when you're talking about Nazis.
Mm.
In my notes, I've written 2-tier commentary because this week 3 real-life Nazis were arrested in Britain for plotting to attack mosques, Islamic education centres, and synagogues.
I wish I was surprised.
Yeah, and they're far right. They're white people.
They're
And
mental.
it took me a little bit of time to find the headline. Actually, it only happened yesterday, in fact. And I was trying to find the article this morning, and I found the BBC article after a few different searches, because when you put in far right terrorists, the most recent
That should be front page.
yeah, exactly. Like, so I'm just going to say a little bit about it, but it's pretty nasty, some of the stuff. But they were convicted of planning multiple attacks. They were found with hundreds of weapons. This isn't very nice, but intricate torture details that they were planning to use on Muslim leaders, using, in inverted commas, an information extraction kit. This is really fucking dark, nasty shit. Really serious kind of stuff. It says Stewart, the group's leader, had told the police officer that they were intending to establish a new Einsatzgruppe. Now,
So these British men.
yes. Now, the
Einsatzgruppen
Einsatzgruppen were the paramilitary death squads that Hitler used to murder people. So that's what these three guys were up to. They were trying to recreate a literal paramilitary death squad on the streets of Britain, and they were going to attack mosques, Islamic centres, and synagogues. But you wouldn't know it, because when I mentioned it to you before the pod, you hadn't even heard of it, had you? No, exactly.
I've heard about the Iranian people.
Yeah, Iranians, because Nigel Farage mentioned it in the House of Commons yesterday, so everyone knows about that. Nigel Farage stood up.
Oh no, I'd seen that on the news.
Yeah, it'd been on the news.
Not seen any. Not that. To be fair, I don't watch a lot of mainstream news. I get it from the source, but
Farage stood up after in PMQs, and one of his used the question and said, "Should we be declaring a national emergency?" Because potentially, he said, this was one of the Iranians could have come across on a boat. This sort of like speculative bullshit that he comes up with makes the news.
Could have been, I don't know, a Finnish or a Danish man.
Well, yeah,
exactly. We know.
Could have been someone from fucking Argentina. Who knows? But it doesn't matter. The point is that made the news, and 3 actual Nazis who were hours away from launching really horrible stuff on the streets of Britain doesn't make the news because they're white. That's my TV News didn't mention it. Reform haven't mentioned it. Talk TV haven't mentioned it. LBC hasn't mentioned it. No, not as far as I can.
Not wishing to bring it on, but it's a bit like kiddie tactic, isn't it? Of like, you just keep pushing the envelope until you can't push it any further. And I don't know how far the right are going to be allowed to push it before Starmer has to do something.
Yeah.
If that had gone ahead, it still might not have made the news.
No.
Well, look at Leeds. Leeds didn't make the news, really, did it?
No.
Like, what's it got to take for him to go, okay, I'm emboldening them now, and it's partly my fault?
Oh yeah, I mean, he's been attacked himself 3 times. There's 3 fire attacks I read the other day. There was a car, his house, and there was another fire local to where that house is. The guy got arrested. We don't know any details about. Well, I don't know any details about the guy at the moment, but
the thing is, though, when you push people to their absolute limits, this is a natural consequence of human behaviour. I'm not justifying it, because these people are clearly irrational.
Oh yeah,
at best. But they lost rationale for some reason. It didn't just happen.
No.
You know what I mean? They didn't just wake up one day and go, do you know what? I think we should start collecting munitions and go after Starmer.
Yeah.
There's a root to everyone's anger.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why throughout like the Tory years, I'm like, well, actions have, or supposed to have, consequences. There's an upshot to a stupid choice. There's an upshot to a choice, but a lot of us can sort of look ahead and employ damage limitation, but they just don't care.
No. Did you see 2 reactions on Twitter to Keir Starmer's house being attacked, firebombed effectively, I think.
I actually had to go looking for that news.
Did you?
Mm.
Well, I saw the lovely Julia Hartley Brewer had a really sick joke out about it. And then,
Such class.
do you know the guy Peter Blexley, the policeman that's, ex-topper that's on Talk TV? He put up a post out yesterday that was basically incitement. It was like, started collecting weapons and stuff. You're like, hold the phone. And then it's supposed to be a joke to him and his far right followers. But, two MPs have already been murdered. Keir Starmer's house has been firebombed this week and a car blown up next to his house. This shouldn't be fair game. You can't make jokes that lead to incitement, as far as I'm concerned. It shouldn't be allowed. But but
equally, the way Starmer's behaving, it's going to.
No, I know.
This is a consequence, and bear in mind that he's had 3 firebomb attacks, and when you take into account the population of this country that are angry with him, the populations of other countries that are angry with him, chances are you're going to bring something on yourself if you treat people inhumanely. Which is why we're supposed to be good and decent and honourable people and be honest and truthful and live a decent life and treat people as you'd want to be treated and look after your country and do your fucking job. None of that seems to apply to them.
No. Yeah. They should be safe, though, I still think. There needs to be a level of safety.
I mean, I'm sure that he's got all the protection in the world, hasn't he? That's the beauty of it. He's got as much protection as he can garner, but that just means he's free to carry on doing it.
Yeah.
We're still training IDF officers over here.
Yeah.
How many people, it's like the Russian roulette of pissing people off.
The what, sorry?
It's like Russian roulette of pissing people off, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Maybe just behave like a decent human being and maybe those things wouldn't happen. They might still. I don't know. You can't please all the people all the time, but I think that statistically your chance has been much lower if you're still killing people. Or at least assisting in that process.
Do you not think there's sort of free reign of the far right is contributing to this, though?
Of course it is. He's literally the architect of his own fucking problems.
Yeah.
He's literally throwing oil on all the fires. And going, no, more oil for me, please, more oil. What is wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Murdoch's up your bum. My mistake.
Yeah. Okay. That was my thing, though. I just wanted to mention about the fact that we hadn't heard much about these Nazi guys, because we should have done, as far as I'm concerned, but we did not.
I'll go searching for that after and have a nose.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I'll put the link to it in the I'll put it in the show notes, the BBC article, because it's interesting and pretty scary.
Well, I mean, what's they found one rat's nest.
Yeah.
How many more are there?
Oh no, a lot. Definitely. So, moving on, what else have you got?
Somebody asked us to talk about the assisted dying bill, didn't they?
Yes, they did. That was.
So I can throw in my 2 pence about that because
go for it.
It's
a couple of people mentioned it, actually, I think. Yeah.
I feel like I'm quite well experienced to talk about it, in as much as I grew up when I was 13. I nursed my nan through end-stage cancer.
All right, okay.
And 2 years after that, my dad died of cancer, but he died a lot quicker than my nan did. Some years ago, I nursed my next-door neighbour when she was dying of cancer. I've spent 5 years as a veterinary nurse, occasionally helping in putting animals to sleep.
Yeah, right.
And I myself, because of my invisible medical conditions, I'm actually, because I looked into it some years ago, I am eligible for assisted suicide in Canada and Belgium and probably Switzerland.
Wow.
If I had the money, which I don't.
Yeah.
It's weird when poverty keeps you alive, but that's where we are.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Now, because of my history and my experiences, I am in an ideal world pro-assisted suicide.
Mm,
And I was very interested in it when it came about, and I had lots of people on Twitter block me because they were screaming that the government's trying to kill us. And I was like, well, they haven't actually said anything yet. Let's wait and
mm,
hear what they're going to propose,
yeah,
because it might actually, I, you know, I don't know how many people you have to watch go through that pain for months on end until they
yeah,
eventually succumb and the morphine stops working. But
mm,
it's fucked. And some people, obviously, it's not going to be for everybody, but I
no,
think we should at least afford human beings the dignity that we give to animals of not being in pain anymore.
yeah,
You know, there's nothing intensely wrong with me that's going to finish me within a sort of a short period of time.
yeah,
But the fact that have 4 or 5 different conditions that are all chronic and acutely painful,
mm,
it's really difficult to live in pain, believe me.
yeah,
So that's how I qualify, but I wouldn't qualify for the government because it's end stage
yeah,
terminal assistance, except it isn't. Except all those people on Twitter who were going, oh, they're trying to kill us all. They were all right. They were
cool.
calling it ahead of time, but they called it correctly. And
Mm,
when I actually read, it was a few months ago, I read through the votes, what they voted on for the assisted dying
yeah,
bill. It is like a trawler net of holes.
really.
Oh, it's that there is such little provision for people with like altered mental conditions. Um, and what worries me is not so much the people who are very ill or dying.
Yeah,
It's you know, I lost a few people early on in my life, and nothing will bring family members out of the woodwork quicker with menaces like a fucking will being in the offing.
mm,
Oh my God, people are terrible. My uncle literally tried to get his travel expenses to visit my dying nan taken off her will before his part of the will. You know, when
wow,
house was paid off, drove a BMW,
yeah,
plenty in the bank. They wanted to claim expenses for visiting his own dying mum.
no, that's
And that's
nice.
just one tiny little, so people are fucking terrible.
Yeah,
They lose their morals very quickly. Um, so it's a bit like the benefits thing. Everyone's a benefits cheat. Well, no, there's people like that in every walk of life trying to game
yeah,
it for all sorts of reasons. We
yeah,
just
sure.
have I genuinely think we have a human behavior issue, but what are you going to do? All sorts of bills brought about by capitalism and the pressures and
Mm,
mechanics of it. But I just, it's a human cull what the government is suggesting. That's the long and the short of it. They are leaving it so wide open. Like I say, it was for terminal patients. Now it's not. So I don't. I just there's so many things happening at the minute that I just don't understand how they're lawful.
yeah, I don't know. And yeah, this sort of came about, didn't it, from the Twitter question about it, and it came. The original tweet is from the Buckinghamshire Disability Service, and
Mm.
I'm just going to read it out because it seems important. It says our member, a care home manager, was asked today to estimate how many disabled residents might be eligible for medically assisted suicide under the lead beta bill, and how many places might be freed up if the option was assertively marketed.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
he's
saying
like,
it out loud.
yeah, and that's the Buckinghamshire Disability Service, so they're obviously, fighting the fight. But that's I don't have a word to express how dark that is.
It's not what you see, like those people that whilst I have suspicions and intuitions and stuff, I still like to take the fact from the source at the time. I
Yeah,
don't like to
no,
panic
sure.
at the time. I don't like catastrophizing. It's very unhealthy.
Mm,
So I try to stay as rational as I can. Um, but when you look at the pattern of austerity and the fact that Cameron and Osborne were told that many people would die, and they went ahead, they did it anyway.
Yeah.
And the deaths year on year have increased over and above the average death rate.
Mm.
And it felt like a plan. Everything around being sick or disabled was just, we've had nothing but boots put into us for 15 years now.
Yeah.
Maybe longer, but that's how long I've, had to experience it. Um, and it's just so cruel and counterproductive. And this is just another extension of that.
Mm.
And everything points towards they just want to get rid of people they see as eaters.
Yeah.
Except we're not just eaters. We also make an enormous profit for big pharma. We
Mm.
also, we are part of the mechanics of the bottom of the economy.
Mm.
Every single penny we get goes on things that we need, and 20% of it goes back to the government in VAT
Yeah, of
because we
course.
have to spend it. So even if you don't have the humanitarian view of it, we still have a purpose.
Mm.
That
Oh, of course.
if there were no sick people, there'd be no carers industry. This is how economics works, apparently.
But that post effectively is eugenics. It's advocating or
How long have I been using that word
no,
for?
I know you
And
have.
people are
And
calling me hysterical.
it, no, it really is though. I mean, that's almost like textbook definition of it.
When you kill a specific group to get
Mm.
rid of them from society,
Of course.
that is eugenics.
Yeah, I know. It's just
I didn't mean to go
insane.
on Jimmy Savile there, so
Yeah. Yeah, that
you
it
calm down,
is.
Spence.
It is eugenics, and that was such a big. That's another link going back to Nazis and fascism, and back in 100 years ago, the eugenics was such a big thing then. And I thought we'd moved on, but we clearly haven't, and it feels a bit like we're coming back around again. And I know you've said that a few times, but that
But do you know what the worst bit of it is that it's going on. I've been screaming about it. It's literally why I joined Twitter, because I figured
yeah.
the only way I could help myself was to attack the source of the problem.
Hmm.
I've forgotten where I was going with that. What was I talking about? Give us a clue.
Just eugenics, but like when you said that's why you joined Twitter.
Yeah, to shout, because I was literally on Facebook for 5 years, like I mentioned, thinking I was losing my mind. How can this possibly be really going on? It must
Mm.
just be about me. It must just
Yeah,
be me that has all these problems and issues, and people were happy to confirm my suspicions that I was going mad, because I
mm,
felt so unhinged, because this isn't the country I was led to believe
yeah,
exists. And nobody cared. Like, I thought when everyone finds out what's going on, they're going to be
yeah,
absolutely livid. Do you realise this is eugenics going on? Uh, uh, what? Do you not? Well, come on. I mean, is it? Yes.
yeah,
Here are the figures.
yeah,
Look what they've done. They knew it was going to happen. They got told it was going to happen. It's happened, and now it's getting worse. And as long as I've been alive, this country's never had a pot to piss in. So let's
yeah.
not use that excuse anymore.
No,
It's tired and it's old, and life is too fucking short, especially
yeah,
when you're struggling so much with it.
yeah,
It's we're ruled by predators.
yeah. It's really, really, it's really
It's disgusting.
disturbing.
But it's also really, really fucking heartbreaking for the people who, bearing in mind, it's not going to come to fruition for a good 2 to 3 years, is it? If
Yeah,
it comes to fruition at all.
if it does, yeah. I got a feeling it'll get
All that,
blocked, but yeah.
I do, on this particular topic I'm speaking on, I do feel for the likes of Esther Ranson,
Hmm.
who are just like, I just need a fuck. I'm tired. I've had enough,
Yeah.
because I know what that feels like, and it is when your soul's already crushed. You've had
Yeah.
enough,
Mm.
and in full knowledge of what you've got going on around you and your family and all that, and
Yeah.
you come to terms with all that, because you have to. The acceptance is part of
Yeah.
chronic illness, disability, and certainly terminal illness.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, I just, I
No,
don't know.
it
I mean,
is.
we've got 3 years, I guess, but
Yeah, I mean that.
everything just seems so cruel and weighted against the people who need the most help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what surprises me. Well, no, it doesn't surprise me, that's the wrong word, but I understood it more when you saw the Tory government doing it. What is making me more worried now is that it's happening when they're not part of it. That makes me more concerned than it was previously, because previously, as you said about austerity and stuff, and you saw it from that side of things, and you kind of slowly, the boiling frog thing happened from 2010 onwards, and it sort of
Yeah.
culminated with Boris Johnson effectively. And then suddenly we're in a position where we're supposed to be in a better place from last summer, but we're really not. Things are getting
Do you know
worse.
what?
And that post, that eugenics theory, or put into sort of writing, it's just, that's so dangerous.
Well, I wrote about it for Byline, didn't I?
Yes.
Called it out, and it got great reaction. But again, it's like the benefit cuts. They've got professionals sitting there telling them you are going to kill people,
Yeah.
and they vote for it anyway. What is that? You are not the experts in this field. You are being
No.
directed by the experts who have
Yeah.
specifically come in to assist you with this very important life-altering decision for so many people.
Yeah.
And you're just going to ignore all the professional advice and go with your own. Why would you do that?
I remember a care home manager was asked to estimate how many disabled residents might be eligible for medically assisted suicide. Wow. I mean, I just can't. I know I'm going to do a bit more reading about this. I might contact these people and ask them for some input for next week, because I want to know who asked the questions of the care home. That's the most important part of that
Yeah,
statement.
exactly which department. Yeah.
Where did that question come from? Because I think if we can find out where that question came from, then there's an awful lot more questions need to be
Yeah,
asked. But
absolutely.
back to the source, and I'll follow that up. I think this week I'll see if I can get some information for next week on that, because it just shouldn't be allowed. I mean, that should not be part of society in 2025.
It points back towards the performative politics and
Yeah.
us being trapped in a neoliberal takeover of people in costumes working for the same fucking side. And that side is not any of us, worth less
No,
than
they're not
10
working
million
for
quid.
us. No, exactly.
The majority of people of this country.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll follow that up. I will definitely chase that up and see if I can get some info on it, because it's just so grim and horrible.
Yeah.
I don't have any other words for it. It's just,
Well, I wish, do you know what? I don't.
go on.
This might bring tears, but if it does, it's fine.
No, of course it's fine.
I wish I could put into words what it's been like going through the last 14 years as a disabled person
Yeah,
and campaigning really, really hard at the same time as being very, very sick, like a lot of us are. And then Labour come in. We've persuaded everyone to vote tactically to just get this. Labour didn't win because they're great. Labour won because the Tories are dog shit murdering criminals.
yeah, I
That's
agree.
why Labour won. And we all fucking celebrated
Mm,
because we thought that the boot was going to come off our necks. We didn't expect much, but we sure as shit didn't expect it to get worse.
yeah, that's it.
And it hurts me, not just because like my living situation is difficult, but there are millions of people like me, and none of us, not a one person on this planet, has to be born. And the majority of us have to just get on with it. Wherever you're born, whatever
Mhm.
bingo ball you pull out the machine, you just have to get on with it. But we're all in the same fucking boat. We're all human beings who should, I think, be striving to evolve better,
Wow.
not to fund the pockets of a handful of psychologically unhinged, obsessively greedy people.
Yeah,
But they're not. They're choosing to kill people so that they can make more money on top of the obscene amount of money they've already got.
yeah.
And it can't stand. just,
No.
in fact, just to sort of further, because I read something that's not directly related today, but the last recorded year of ending of life, 23 to 24, I think it was the highest number of recorded male suicides
Was it?
to date. There were, in 1 year, there were 5,200 male suicides in 1 year.
In the UK?
Yeah. There were
Yeah.
about 25% of that number on top of that were women. It's predominantly a male issue. So it was the Canary. I retweeted an article on them earlier.
Okay, right.
Um, and it goes back to what I was talking about last week from the Commons Committee. It's deaths of despair.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure in that 5,200, which is unreal,
Yeah, that's huge.
some of them will be end of life sufferers putting themselves out their own misery. I've no doubt. But the majority of people who there are many reasons why people end up that psychologically desperate. But at the bottom of it is society.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I aggressively talk about mental health and depression and CPTSD because I refuse to be cowed by it any longer. But like when I was talking to my MP the other week and she's side-eyeing her assistant, every time she's saying to me, I think you need some mental health care. And you're like, that's stigma right there.
Yeah.
Why are you making out like I'm some sort of massive weirdo because I'm sitting here upset because I'm explaining to you why I'm in such dire straits?
Yeah.
And that's the reaction you get. Well, that's also why a lot of men won't reach out and say they're struggling because they don't want to be judged.
Yeah,
And as
sure.
long as it's just so stupid. And again, education is at the bottom of this problem.
Yeah. No, I agree.
People are frightened of and bemused by what they don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, there's a slight political kind of aspect to this. I hear a lot quite often with the right leaning and right wing commentators, and they're often saying things like, "Oh, oh, the best thing for depression is getting up and going to work," or all that sort of crap. And you know,
But again,
that's
there's a half
what
truth
most
in that.
people. Pardon?
There is a half truth in that.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
there's an awful lot of tick boxes you've got to go through with yourself before you even get anywhere near the
Yeah,
going out to work bit.
of course. But it's that kind of 1950s attitude of buck up, bucko, get pull yourself
It's
up by your
absolute.
bootstrap.
It's
But it's what,
counterproductive
yeah.
neurological ignorance.
So where we're in a society which is going downhill, people's mental states are going downhill with society. It's not. You get to a point where you can't. Oh, let's just pick myself up by my bootstraps and carry on. That's
Well,
not.
you can't, like I said about my MP the other week, you can't medicate yourself out of a fucking
No.
circumstance.
Yeah.
Why would you?
No.
Oh, because Big Pharma want to make loads of money.
Well.
And your doctor told you to. But other than that, I know everything that's wrong with me, and it's nothing a pill's going to fix.
No. No.
It's something that I need to be able to live without worrying that I'm eating more than I can afford. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
It's just, and when it's for such a sustained amount of time,
Yeah.
it it literally contributes to your illness.
Yeah. Of course. No, definitely.
It's so insane.
It is. It's a horrible, horrible situation that we found ourselves in 10 years ago or longer, but now is, as you said, getting worse. And that's the absolutely heartbreaking bit about it, is that everyone had that glimmer of hope, like you said earlier, of like, oh, last summer, like, yeah, maybe some pressure might come off. But the opposite wasn't ever meant to be the case, was it? That's the problem.
But just while I can get this off my chest,
Yeah, yeah,
because
okay.
it bothers the shit out of me. No, I said I was on Facebook and when I was campaigning before I came onto Twitter and nobody
Yeah.
gave a toss about what I was saying. Well, now I've garnered my confidence and gone and doubled down on sort of squaring my life experience with my knowledge. And there are people who do listen to me.
Mm.
There's still, like, my ex-boyfriend, for not entirely politically aligned, but he's a nice guy, you know what I mean? He's humanitarian, but he thinks
Yeah.
there's limits on stuff. Um, for 16 months, I talk about all this stuff a lot 'cause I'm on Twitter and doing what I'm doing. At no point did he ever log on and do the 2-minute job of, where's my MP? Let me write to my MP about this. Not once.
Yeah.
And that's literally the start of how we complain about stuff.
Yeah, it should be.
Now, if 2% of the population wrote to their MPs about the attacks on disabled people, not a
Mhm.
chance this would be going through.
Yeah.
They just don't, and I don't understand it. I mean, I guess it's not your battle, so why would you? But people are dying.
Yeah.
People are being pushed into early coffins.
No.
I just don't get it. But it's got to be like a human behaviour thing because it can't be like we all hate disabled people because I
Well,
don't
no, of
think most
course not.
people do.
No,
I think
obviously.
most people are just struggling themselves and they're like, can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah, definitely. And I think anyone could, if they had the opportunity to help, would help. But not anyone, but most people would. And like you say, writing to your MP is such a fundamental small job that most people could do. And I'm going to put a link to there's a couple of good websites where you can just fill in forms for you. You know, if you want to find it'll find it. It finds your MP by your postcode, then it'll gives you tick boxes and you can fill out forms. And it's something that it doesn't happen enough. And these people are supposed to work for us. They're put there by us.
That's, that's this week's joke. Well done.
That's my light-hearted moment. But they are though. I mean, that's their entire job. They should be doing for us. We put them there for that reason. So I think it's important that people, this is what the right have got at the moment. But the reform lot is they're so active, constantly active, and the middle and the left don't really give a shit about anything. They're kind of just,
Pull in a salary.
yeah. So I'll put a
Doesn't
link to
affect
this.
me. Everything's fine.
Yeah, they'll put these website links at the bottom of the show notes because, if it's something once a month you might want to do is just pick up your laptop or your iPad and write to your MP and say, this isn't okay.
Mm.
That would be really good. It would be
It
really
would
helpful.
really help if people would do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little step into being political without having to do very much, is just to write to your MP. I remember the first time I did it, I was a bit kind of apprehensive about it a few years ago. And I thought, oh no, what should I, shouldn't I? But definitely do.
See, the chances of you getting a response are slim. Anything
They are.
copy and pasted. But the more people just write in and register their
Yeah,
displeasure, the less they're going to be able to ignore it.
exactly. Takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's worth doing. It's really worth doing. We need to try and force their hand into doing something
I mean,
for
there's
us.
loads of petitions out there, but
Yeah, I don't know about the petitions. They don't seem to really do very much. They get a little
no.
mini debate in a side room in the Commons, and then they're just sort of glossed over. But
Mm.
yeah, but I think writing to your MP is a fundamental part of kind of politics that
Democracy.
yeah, exactly, that we should be part of, and it's well worth a go. So let's move on, I think,
Mm.
because we're going long. I wanted to talk about, in my notes, I've written boring spreadsheets again because a return to my monthly social media politics watch. I'm going to just go over it quickly because it's really sort of loads of numbers, loads of data, and it's all on my Twitter, as everything is.
It's the crux of the problem, isn't it?
And yeah, I think it is. And I've been doing this since January, and I've been tracking each political party with their leader and their deputy leader. And I picked just a group of media channels and using their social media to count basically who gets the most mentions, who's getting the most traction, and where their traction's coming from. And it's not exhaustive because I can't go on count TikTok mentions or Facebook or Instagram. I'm just using X because it's a good sample size, and it's probably probably the biggest political platform, social media, and also I can easily use the data from it. So I picked Sky News, LBC, GB News, The Times, The Telegraph, Talk TV, ITV News, and BBC News / BBC Politics. And I look at each mention over the month. And it's quite striking. The total mentions across all of those news channels in 1 month is 33% for Reform. So Reform UK.
Got a third of the vote.
I've got a third of my sample of social media mentions across the major news outlets in this country. 1/3. They have 5 MPs and they've got 3% of local council seats, and yet they're commanding a third of the media, social media. It's not right. It shouldn't be allowed to happen.
It's client journalism.
It's 100% client journalism, but I don't know where or why it's got to this point that Nigel Farage and Richard Tice particularly are ubiquitous now in our media that we don't have any option but to see these guys. I put a post out on Monday. Richard Tice was on TV at the weekend, but then on Monday by 7 o'clock, he'd been on 5 TV shows in one day.
I mean, notwithstanding, it is quite a boast that we can say that you will never ever see anyone from Reform on our podcast.
Well, I'm trying.
They're too scared.
I've tried. I put a post out to them and said, please come and join us. Let's have a chat. We'll be fair. We won't be fair.
Fair, but
that's really weird. Literally this second, I've had a post from Isabel Oakshott telling me that I'm obsessed with Richard Tice. Literally just this second.
No, you're obsessed with Richard Tice and his disproportionate amount of media views.
Yeah.
That's public interest.
By Wednesday, he'd been on the telly 9 times, Richard Tice. 9. Paddy McGuinness isn't on the telly that much. And he's on everything. It's just not.
He's the guy from the IRA.
Yeah, that one. Have I got his name wrong? No, it is right.
No, I'm joking.
No, I know. You put doubt in my head, though. I was like, is that really Paddy McGuinness? Yeah, no, it is him. But yeah. How is one deputy leader from one party allowed on the television not allowed, but welcomed on the television 9 times in 3 days when they've got 5 MPs?
Because he's got loads of money and he's paid to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, it's just how it's not real. None of this is real. It's so confected.
Yeah, but he's the one more than any that's promoting the anti-climate change, the climate change denialism, and that's so dangerous as well. Like, he's ramping this up so much, and we've talked about him before and his hypocrisy on this. But I wrote about him, and I think Richard Tice is basically a website chatbot, anthropomorphized.
I've just remembered. So it took me a while to remember who it was. I heard a reformer in the week state live, and I think it was on tomorrow's papers tonight or whatever it is on Sky.
Yeah, on Sky.
And Tim Montgomery sat there
Auntie.
and said, look, climate change is a problem, we've got to address it. And I went, what? What is that? What? I'm sure he defected from the Tories. He definitely did defect from the Tories to Reform. So, and that was Monday. So Monday was a pro-climate change day for Reform. And I'm assuming we're now back to climate change isn't real, are we? I don't know.
Yeah,
Or
I
do
mean,
they not have a party
Tice,
line?
Richard Tice is net stupid zero. That's his catchphrase at the moment. He thinks it's absolute bollocks, and he put out a post this morning, which I called him out on, because he said that there was an article in the Daily Mail that the boss of British Gas, Centrica, said that renewable energy won't bring down bills. And that's where Richard Tice left it, and he cut it off. But I read the article, and that's exactly what he said. He said it won't bring down bills in the short term, but it will offer much greater stability and in the future, and stop bills rising. And we won't be at the mercy of foreign oil and gas prices. And this is the boss of Centrica, I'm fully behind the government's move towards clean energy. So Richard Tice neglected, obviously, to mention all that. He just put the sentence where it won't lead to cheaper bills. So then he's like, oh, Ed Miliband should be sacked. But he completely missed out the context of the entire quote from the guy, who was very pro renewable energy. But Tice, because he's on telly 9 times a day, says this shit, and his people, subscribers, the reformers, they go, oh yeah, well, if the guy from British Gas doesn't like it, then it must be true.
And which climate academic does Richard Tice get his information from?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, call me a weirdo, but if I want to learn about something that's to do with my job and therefore very serious and will impact lots of people, I would, well, I have throughout my life gone to the most qualified person I could possibly find
Yeah,
to speak to them about said problem. And
yeah,
he's talking to Shell? I don't know.
yeah. Well, that kind of ties into his second post of today, and I didn't mean to talk about this because he winds me up, and
You're obsessed, man.
yeah, maybe Oakeshott is right. Isabel, if you're
No,
listening,
but it's for a very good reason. It's a rational
yeah,
obsession.
I'm definitely not after your boyfriend, but um yeah, he wrote. So this both happened this morning. He misquoted the guy from British Gas, and then he wrote another post saying, "Look at this, reform policy, economic policies are not all the doom and gloom that everyone says." And then he puts a link up to a Telegraph article, which I clicked on, and it's paywalled, so you can't read it. But I did read it, and there are ways to circumvent paywalls. And guess who wrote the article on reforms economics? Richard Tice. He wrote his
Famous
own article.
economist.
Yeah, he wrote his own article in the Telegraph to say, actually, every other credible economist is wrong, but I'm right.
Of course.
But
It's
it's the
almost
same
like
with the
he's an
climate thing.
off-the-wall narcissist.
Yes, it's the same with the climate stuff. He gets his own. He does his own research in inverted commas.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the Telegraph a paper of record?
Used to be.
So it's not now.
It's supposed to be. Yeah, no, it is.
Right, okay. Well, do they not have to adhere to like special rules and stuff to be a paper of record?
Doesn't seem that way anymore. Just
So
doesn't.
a paper's of record not a thing anymore, or
I don't know. I have to look that up because I know what you're saying, and
there just might be a little clause in there.
but the Telegraph, yeah, the Telegraph
So
was always a paper of record. Always has been.
it should surely carry responsibility. I mean, okay, they'll call it an op-ed, which means he can spout any old shit.
Yeah.
But there has to be a duty of candor.
Yeah, a basis.
Is that
in
right,
fact.
guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a basis in fact somewhere, in theory. Yeah.
That isn't all in his head.
No. So yeah, Richard Tice is a world-renowned economist and climate scientist as of today. He's quoting himself because they haven't got any other people, because they put out their 4-point economy plan last week and it was shredded within seconds.
Yeah.
By everybody going, well, this is going to cost us.
Trustworthy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was going to cost the country 100 billion in the first 6 months of them being in government. And you're like, well, okay, so this is, trust on acid. It's just nuts. But so he's taken to writing stuff himself, going, well, you're all wrong. Look what I've said. Yeah.
You know what, though? The fact that these people exist gives me massive confidence.
Yeah.
If they can get to the position, I mean, just
The Dunning-Kruger, isn't it? Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a lobotomy, please. Life would be so much easier.
Yeah, wouldn't it? But this may be why people don't write to their MPs. People just get enough of it, and they're like, well,
Yeah, well, but that's how they're getting away with it. But
yeah,
like I was saying the other week, it's a cycle of shit on the disabled people, rag the working classes, up it creeps to the middle classes, and we'll start all over again.
yeah, yeah,
We've had 3 cycles of that now, and I've had enough.
yeah. Me too. So yeah, I'll put a link to my data thing. It just shouldn't be allowed that these guys are allowed a third of all media.
Where do Ofcom stand?
It's nowhere. Again, it's the
Are Ofcom run like the energy watchdogs, where they're
yeah.
employed by people that used to work in the big industries? So
Yeah,
they're
I don't know who runs Ofcom actually. I should look at that, but they don't really have any teeth to do anything.
like Ofwat's run by all the old water industry
Yeah,
managing directors, isn't it? It's all jobs for the boys.
yeah, it is. I assume Ofcom's similar, but it goes back to what you said, like really, like early, like Lisa and Andy should be looking into this stuff. DCMS, the
I
Department of
think she was
Culture.
still alive.
No, exactly.
I've
That's
seen
the
like
thing.
the hair of her for months.
I tagged her into my post about this, and then loads of people like reposted it and tagged her as well. But like, she doesn't seem to be active in her role anyway. I don't know. Ofcom and the DCMS are non-entities basically. That you're allowed to do anything, say anything, and if you got the right connections like Reform, you can be everywhere all at the same time. So
I
that
mean,
just
look
kind of
for Nadine Dorries, we've got entertainment value.
yeah, that's very true.
Now we just seem to have the invisible woman.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then just again about Reform, just the last thing I had for today was about polls, the polling, the continuous, non-stop, fucking
Not the invasion
tidal,
of them.
tidal wave of polling that all favours Reform. So Reform just push it out constantly. It's
It's just
like,
twat, isn't it?
just fucking stop it. It's just pointless. Like, you're 4 years away from an election. Yeah, all right, put a poll out once a month. You know, 1 company, 2 companies, whatever. But like every day, we're getting 5 different polls out.
But it's a tactic, isn't it? The more information you throw at people, the less they can pay attention to it and pick up on actual facts
Yeah,
from within. So they're just deluging people, so people
give up.
get lied to and they give up
Yeah,
sourcing information. And oh, that's true, is it? Reformer liked by everybody in the world. Oh, that's great.
well, that's it. But I said it's like buying, you know, like a giraffe height measuring chart for your kid when they're small.
Thing is, sorry.
But not buying one, but buying like 40, and then every week buying another 40 and measuring the child every 5 minutes on every chart. You know, you're not going to get any useful information. It's completely meaningless. It's just up in the ether of just bollocks.
But no, it's not meaningless, because the more information they're throwing at people, the less of the actual genuine information people get to see.
Well, okay, yeah.
That's
In
what
that
it's
respect,
about.
yeah,
It's the bamboozle, another
yeah.
way of bamboozling people in it.
No, you're right.
And you shouldn't have to be Hercule fucking Poirot to understand the news,
No,
but you do have to be.
yeah, that's it.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? And I
And
know
yeah,
because I sit here and I'll, like, just off the top of my head, if Will's over, bless him, who's 19, who's a lot more politically aware than most kids his age for obvious reasons.
good. Well,
But
yeah,
nevertheless, if we have the news on, I have to explain to him that what he's saying isn't true because this has
yeah,
happened and that's happened, and then
yeah.
most people don't have the time to sit and learn like I've had nothing else but,
Mm,
you know. So I'm not surprised, but this is how they do it.
yeah,
And then throw into the facts the technological revolutions come along. We're not paying attention to the effect it's having on humanity, and all of a sudden, everybody's struggling with neurological issues.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing about taking in data.
Hmm.
Your brain's only got so much capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't evolve that quickly.
That's it. Exactly. You said that before. I think maybe episode 1. I think it was. You mentioned that, and
Yeah,
it's
well,
true.
nobody ever talks about it. If I heard a neurologist or a psychologist stand there and go, it's fine because the brain has endless capacity and it's plastic, which it is, then I'd go, oh, I stand corrected. That isn't the
Yeah,
problem. I must look elsewhere. But for now, it seems to massively be a big old elephant in the room no one's addressing.
yeah, of course. It's just information overload that's not possible to process.
Yeah.
You know, That's it. That's what I'm saying. It's like having all these measuring charts. You got 500 measurements a day. It's not meaningless, but the data is meaningless because
Yeah,
it's this
it
nebulous
becomes
thing.
meaning. Yeah,
Yeah, but the meaning behind
but
it
that's what I'm saying to you. That's exactly why they're doing it on purpose.
yeah, completely. Is Steve Bannon coined the phrase of flooding the zone with shit when he did
And
Trump
all of
the first
this,
time.
all of this equates to what is essentially torture tactics.
Mm. Yeah,
If you go and read any book on psychology and the tactics of traumatizing people, and what's the word I'm looking for? I've got integration in my head, and that's not interrogation.
Oh, interrogation. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Interrogating people, and
yeah,
all different tactics that are used to alter human
yeah,
perception. Not the right word problem today. Um, it's manipulative behavior
yeah,
to have an effect on somebody else that is detrimental to them,
yeah, definitely,
which is going
definitely.
back to we're all run by psychopaths. Because who else would do this insane stuff that makes humanity worse, not better?
Yeah, definitely. It's fucking nuts. Anyway, my last note on polling was just fucking stop it. Enough. That's it.
Yeah, Don
I've
said
just had
it.
enough of it.
I do you now.
Yeah, that's it.
One day, kid. One day.
Yeah, one day. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, I don't got anything else this week. Well, we talked a long time, I think, but it's just I was going to read the immigration white paper to see how bad slash good or otherwise that is, and I've started it, and I will do it for next week. I didn't have time to finish it this week, but for next week we'll have it. I'll have some notes on the immigration white paper to see if it is as bad as what people are making out. Because one of our Twitter followers, Brain Balls, his name is Brian at Brainballs, asked what is Nigel Farage's real reason for voting down the Borders bill? Is it purely so he isn't seen agreeing with Labour? Yeah, I think the answer is yeah. I think you wrote contrarian, didn't you?
He's a contrarian twat.
Yeah.
That's literally his entire. You can
Yeah.
encapsulate that man in those two words.
Yeah, I think yeah. You know, even if it's something he agrees with, which he clearly does, and you said earlier, and Widdicombe was saying that even they think that Starmer's gone too far. I don't think that's the reason for Farage voting it down. I think he's just voting it down to make a point, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to park reform, unless you've got anything else to discuss about those terrible people.
No, I'm out.
I've got one last mini discussion for us on a lighter note.
Yeah, go on. That'd be nice. It's been quite heavy.
News in from across the Atlantic.
Oh yeah, always fun to watch.
Yeah. Apparently, it's part of Project 2025, but one of the senators has introduced a bill, I believe, to ban porn. Discuss.
To ban porn completely. Oh really? Well, I mean, that's not going to get very far with the amount of money involved in the industry, is it? But
Best of the plan.
yeah, exactly. Jesus. Love it or hate it. That's billions and billions of dollars to the economy, that industry. So,
And instituted by literally the most depraved people on the planet.
But that must track back to the roots of, if you're saying Project 2025 is right, it's all this sort of Christian nationalism and kind of extreme performative religion. So I guess it's coming from that.
So another preacher get picked up for paedophilia yesterday on YouTube. They're everywhere.
Oh yeah, they are. Oh,
These men in dresses.
got
Puddings come say hello again for a second week running.
Coming in at the end, which is quite nice. Good timing. But yeah.
And the other question I had was, how?
Yeah, exactly. It's impossible, isn't it? This is just a nonsense. But I mean, Trump might try it. You know, it's something he might just go, "Oh yeah, let's go for this." But
I'd love it if Israel then went, about porn films.
Yeah. Oh God, can you imagine? Oh no, they're
Pom Bandy.
And Bondi. Pom Bandy, yeah.
Pom Bandy. I've heard things.
Yeah.
Now, according to her, there are thousands of Epstein tapes. Thousands.
Yeah.
He's also addled, but you know.
Yeah. Pam Bondi, the one. She's the AG, isn't she? The Attorney General in America, isn't she?
She's something.
well, they're all very, very strange characters put there by Trump just to stonewall. But yeah, she's the one that was trying to justify his present of a jumbo jet this week from Qatar.
Oh, I mean, but one thing I did, and it might not be correlation or causation. Can you just come here? Can you wobble in the table? Be quiet. Ow, God,
Oh.
so feisty. She's very old.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the cat just knocked it out of my brain. What was I
The
going to say?
jumbo jet.
Oh, yeah, I did notice that it seemed to happen at around the same time as he basically seems to have turned his back on Netanyahu.
Do you think he has? Yeah,
Well, yeah,
maybe.
he's I saw something that was saying Trump said regards Netanyahu, enough was enough.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he's feeling the global heat. I don't know.
Well, there's a long
Because
history of
Netanyahu's going to prison at the minute. Trump
yeah.
bizarrely isn't slated for going to prison yet. But Netanyahu, the minute he loses his premiership, he's off to Nick.
He is. Yeah, he's under 2 corruption charges. So there's a long history, and I've done a bit of reading on this because we talked about him a lot last week, of American presidents just getting fed up with him and going, "This guy is a fucking waste of space. He's a real. Apparently, he's like the worst person in the world to deal with in any situation, political. Or, I mean, we can see that now quite clearly. But Clinton, Bush, Obama, they all just went, and Biden, they all went, fuck this guy. Like, we can't deal with this man. He's
Yeah,
impossible.
that was before Trump 2.0 came along.
Well, you might be right. It might be he's got to that point now. He's gone, fuck this man. He's impossible. Let's get out of there. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's interesting that he was with Qatar and Saudi and Dubai this
Weren't
week.
we going to talk about Gaza?
I think yes, but I'd like to do like a bit longer on it. So maybe we could do proper. I want to try and see if I can get Mark in next week. Maybe we could do Gaza and
Oh, that'd be good.
Gaza and Ukraine is a bit more of a in-depth thing next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a war episode and chat about those two things. But yeah,
Who was
banning
it?
porn. Sorry, go.
I can't remember if we were talking about it on the recording or before. We were talking about somebody's double standards with who was I talking about?
What with Gaza?
Oh, it was no, I don't think we did talk about it on the recording when you were saying about Alistair Campbell.
Oh yeah.
Because I was telling you about how I'd seen him lamenting the state of Palestinian
Yes, that's
children
right. Yeah.
and being starved and stuff,
Yeah.
all while like not mentioning Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to be a real empath about how these poor kids are dying. Just no self-awareness whatsoever.
No, it's that sort of lack of. Did you say last week that they can't call it a genocide until it's finished?
I heard somebody say that.
Yeah.
It's obviously people are because that's what it is.
Well, yeah, 100% is, and it goes similar with the Iraq stuff, and they sort of talk about Gaza now, but they won't talk about Iraq then. I don't know.
And the weird thing is, and I might get in trouble for saying this, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I'm not particularly well educated in the history of war. But it does strike me that by and large, everyone I've seen labelled as a terrorist group appear to be defending their own homeland from invaders.
Yeah. Certainly some of them are, for sure. Yeah.
I'm not saying that, that I don't agree with extremists of any badge at all, of any persuasion, because moderation is always key. But you can't, the right aren't all Nazis.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just a small proportion of the actual extremist right at the tip, which is the same for Al Qaeda, is the same for the IRA. I don't even know if I can use them to scrub that. But do you know what I mean? The extremists, you can have beliefs, whether you act on them and how you act on them is a very different matter.
Yeah.
It's a whole spectrum of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's to just, because I think that was what Campbell was saying, was something about Al Qaeda. Somebody's made friends with Al Qaeda or something.
Right.
And then I was like, well, yeah, but let's remember that Al Qaeda only came to prominence because
As a result.
America attacked Iraq and Afghanistan
Yeah.
because the Saudis blew up the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
It's a real quiz. I don't get it. But
Yeah. Well, I'll do some proper research on that, and we'll have a pretty good look at Gaza next week because it's so important. We have to talk about it, and dark as it is, it's worth a.
we can't not talk about it.
No, exactly.
We can't, as human beings who care, we can't not, because it's I think it's another cult like MAGA.
Yeah, it feels like it. It feels like it, definitely. Like Israel really stepped up again this week, and then they said they were going to, and they are, and more innocent people are dying every single fucking day, and it's just heartbreaking. So, yeah, we need to try and I'll do some proper reading, and let's have a proper chat about it next week, and we'll do Gaza, and I'll see if I can get Mark in to chat about his experience in Ukraine as well, because
That'd be great.
it goes hand in hand at the moment. So, yeah, let's do that.
Wicked.
Cool. I haven't got anything else, have you?
No, it's been a bit of a weird week, so I haven't even got anything funny to finish on, I'm afraid. Well, the porn thing was it, because I just think that's hilarious.
Well,
You want to make something super popular? Ban it.
Exactly. Yeah. The prohibition of porn. Yeah. Let's see how that works in the internet age. No chance, mate, as you said. Who hopes? Yeah. So I think that's it for me.
Yep.
Should we say goodbye?
Indeed, we'll say goodbye, and until next week. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Share us. You subscribe, share, whatever.
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
like,
just
share,
say.
subscribe.
That's it. Like, share, subscribe. I was trying to get that.
Lots
That'd be
of
great.
interaction, please. Send us all your rancid rants. That's not what we call it.
No.
Righteous rants. See, I've got word problems today. I really have.
Send us rancid rants, please. Righteous rants would be great, though. Yeah, definitely. We've gone from porn to rancid rants. That's another weird leap.
Oh, you made that link. You're wrong.
Right, I'm cutting there. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.